Good day, my name is Mike Hussey. I'm the meet manager and officials coordinator for the St. John Fundy Tide swim team. One of the items we've identified that is an issue for new parents of swimming is that swim meets are typically not like some of the other sports events that parents are typically used to going to. We usually receive lots of questions, and we thought we'd collect some of the information that we are normally giving out to parents in one location so that it's an easy reference for new parents or for parents that are trying to refresh themselves on some of the aspects of going to swim meets. So with that in mind, we're putting together the Swim Meet 101. We'll cover various topics such as what is a swim meet, some terms, the types of meets, how you qualify for swim meets, how we sign up for swim meets, and what's involved in going to a swim meet. So what is a swim meet? Swim meet's a competition where swimmers compete in individual events or sometimes relays. Often, especially with our Mighty Sharks kids, parents will ask when their child is ready to compete. Usually it's when they're comfortable in all four strokes, or at least freestyle and backstroke, or when they move from Mighty Sharks into the junior program, or when their coach indicates they're ready to start competing. So for the Mighty Sharks swimmers, typically there's a swim meet at the end of the year. Last several years it's been in Quispamsis in June, and they'll be invited to that, but sometimes depending on their skill level, they may be invited to swim meets earlier in the year. Swim meets have individual events that are made up of the four strokes: freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly, and a combination of the four strokes, which is individual medley, and that's swam in the order of fly, back, breast, free. And you can see the different distances that are there for all the strokes. Basically 50 to 100 for the strokes except freestyle, which is 50 to 1500 meters. And for the individual medley in short course, there's a 100 IM, and in short course and long course, there's a 200 and 400 IM. I will be getting into some of the terms that I'm bringing up here, such as short course and long course, in a little bit. So don't worry if you're not understanding what I'm saying there. At 10 and under meets, sometimes there's 25-meter distances that are offered, but they're not officially sanctioned, or they're not officially, they're not meets you can get in, they're not events you can get an official time in. For team events, for relays, there's always four swimmers, except for some fun relays like at some premier meets or Mighty Sharks meets. But the official relay distances are 4x50, 4x100, and 4x200, and those are the freestyle relays. And then the medley relays are kind of like the individual medley that I talked about earlier, but the order is back, breast, fly, free, and that's so that people can start in the water on their back for the medley. And the distances for that are the 4x50 and 4x100. So some terms. I mentioned long course a little earlier. A long course competition is held in a 50-meter pool, and that's where most major international events are held in a long course meters pool. At the aquatic center, that's when the bulkhead is pushed all the way to one end of the pool, and that's when it's in 50-meter configuration. Short course is when the pool is in 25-meter configuration. So in that case, at the aquatic center, the bulkhead is in the middle of the pool, and there's two 25-meter pools on either side of the bulkhead. You might also see 25-yard swimming in the United States. We don't really have that in Canada, but you see 25 yards in the US. Just something to know that if you see a time that says 25, it's not necessarily meters, it might be yards if it's happening in the US. For swim meets, there are meet fees to attend a meet. That's separate from the fees that you pay at the start of the season to register with the club. So these are paid on a per meet basis. Tide meet fees are calculated by taking the fee the host is charging to attend the meet and adding $10 per day to cover the coaching costs. And that covers their time on deck and travel. The host club charges fees to recoup the lane rental and the maybe some food that they are buying for officials or or the printing costs for programs, that sort of thing. So they charge a rate, and then we add on our $10 per day. Those fees are billed to your account after you sign up to attend a meet, and I'll explain how that works a little later. And no refund is given if you do not attend the meet, unless the meet is canceled by the organizers. Meets are comprised of sessions, so that's a session is a combination of events and heats for a group of swimmers to compete in over a continuous time period, usually no longer than 4.5 hours. So for example, you might have let's say you have a meet on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You might have a Friday morning session, Friday evening session, Saturday morning session, Saturday evening session, and so on. An event is a group of races that have the same distance, stroke, gender, and age group defined. Each event will typically have a number assigned to it. For example, an event might be 12 and under, female, 100-meter breaststroke. So that's an event. A heat are subcategories of the events. So swimmers are sorted into groups called heats based on entry time for the event. Heats typically have a maximum number of swimmers equal to the number of lanes in the pool, which might be 6, 8, or 10, and they're swimming together in one race. Meets will either have time finals or preliminary heats and finals. So in a meet with time finals, a swimmer only swims once. This would be what you would normally see at sometimes an invitational meet, but mostly the premier meets. So they only swim once in a session, and their time is ranked against swimmers in their own age category to determine the finish place. Meets with preliminaries and finals would be some of the championship meets that would be held in the province, as well as any of the meets that our senior swimmers will be going to nationally, or any large meets in other provinces typically. So there'd be a preliminary and final. Typically the preliminary would be in the morning, and the faster swimmers would advance to a final event in the evening session. So depending on the size of the pool, that it would be 6, 8, or 10 swimmers that would advance to the final for that evening session. Some larger meets or national meets will have an A and B final, in which case, instead of just being the top 6 or 8 or 10, it would be the top 12 or 16 or 20 that would advance. And some of those swimmers would be in the B final. Seeding is the order in which swimmers are placed into heats. In time finals, the seeding is usually done by ranking a swimmer's time regardless of their age, with the slowest swimmer swimming in the earliest heats and the fastest in the last heat. And circle seeding is a method of seeding used when there are preliminaries where the fastest 18 to 24 swimmers are seeded in the last 3 heats, with the faster swimmers on the inside lanes. A psych sheet is a list of all the swimmers entered in each event. This list is generally in the order of fastest to slowest by their entry time. Swimmers will who have not swum the event before or swam it but were disqualified will be listed as NT for no time. Heat sheet is also called a meet program or a start list. This report details the events, heats, lane assignments for the swimmers within a session. A program is a booklet that contains the heat sheets for a session, the number of swimmers per team. It'll show the timings, like when the events are expected to start. The times that the events, if they do show the times that the events are expected to start, that's a guideline only. Things change based on false starts or swimmers arriving late or maybe some disqualifications. So that's a guideline only. You usually purchase a program. When you purchase a program, it'll give you the ability to get the heat sheet for finals as well at the start of the final session. So if there is a final, you'll get the heat sheet for the morning, and then usually if you bring back a copy of the program that you got in the morning, they'll give you a copy of the heat sheets for the finals that evening because they'll create that between heats and finals the day of the swim meet. It might be a paper booklet you purchase, or it might also be found electronically, free or for a fee on Meet Mobile, or if it's a meet in Quebec, it'll be called it'll be called Splash Me, and I'll go over that in a little bit. The results are usually posted when all the heats in an event are finished and times are verified by the referee. Results are posted according to the age groups for the swim meet. If it's a meet with heats and finals, the swimmer swimming in finals will be designated along with the alternatives. So that's a very important thing to make sure that before you decide you're not coming back to the finals event at night, you need to confirm with your coach if you are or are not in finals. You might also be in a relay that's in the finals event, so it's very important to know if you need to come back at night. Alternates. So when a meet has finals, 2 swimmers per event will be designated as alternates. So that those people would move into the final if some of the other swimmers either scratch, which means they decide they don't want to swim, or just don't show up. So they need to be at the finals and be prepared to swim if one of the finalists scratches or withdraws. So that does happen. So what happens is the swimmer gets ready to swim and goes up right to the block, and they stand near the referee and wait to see if all the swimmers show up, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes that alternative swimmer gets to swim. So it is an important thing to make sure you're there if you are an alternative. And as I said, you can get electronic versions of the meet program. So that's Meet Mobile, which is the one that we typically use in New Brunswick. Splash Me would be the option for meets in Quebec. So you can see the psych sheets, you can see the meet program. It's a free app, but some functionality requires payment. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but I think it's, I don't know, $8 a year or something like that. But you get the meets, the times, the results are uploaded. Normally, all meets are uploaded to Meet Mobile. Depending on the Wi-Fi capability of the facility where the meet is being held, it might take some time. The meet manager might need to upload them at night when they go home after the swim meet or something like that. So what's a disqualification? If a swimmer breaks a rule for a particular race, then they can be disqualified. Their time doesn't count and they aren't placed in the results, and they can't move on to finals. So disqualifications are sometimes announced during meets. So there'd be someone that would go talk into a microphone, and it would be announced for everyone to hear. Otherwise, the coaches are informed individually. So the swimmers should discuss their disqualification with their coach if they don't understand why they were disqualified or what they did wrong. Two aspects of getting ready for a swim meet or participating in a swim meet are warm-ups and warm-downs. So the warm-up is generally 30 minutes to an hour prior to the start of the swim meet. It allows the athlete to warm up their muscles and prepare for racing, and it's very important to prevent injuries. The warm down or cool down. There may not always be that availability depending on the pool setup. You know, you may end up going to a 25-meter pool and there's no secondary pool, so there would be no warm down or cool down. But if there is the facility to be able to do that, then it's important to do some swimming after your race. So some of the different types of meets for 10 and unders, it would be a 1-day meet. There's no time standards and they're short course. Typically it's one session that's 4 hours long. They're on a Saturday or Sunday normally. Not all the events are offered. What they'll do is they'll offer some events at one meet, and then the next event, the next meet, they'll offer some different events so that swimmers can eventually cover off on all the events. Usually there's best time ribbons awarded, and the 10 and under meets are held within your zone. So your zone, in our zone, is we're in the western zone. So we have Edmundston, Fredericton, Woodstock, St. Stephen, and ourselves in a zone. So really the idea is to try to avoid overnight travel for kids that are 10 and under. Premier meets are for swimmers that are beginning to compete. Uh, Really, it's ideal for junior T and I, as well as some D. Some senior swimmers also attend and swim events that they don't typically swim at some of the championship level events. So there's no time standards required. Typically, they're one session, similar to the 10 and under meets, and up to a maximum of 4 hours. And they're also typically short course. Again, not all the events are offered. They change the events up for each meet to make sure that all the events are covered off during the year. Usually, they can swim up to 4 individual events plus relays. Swimmers can't swim an event where they have achieved an A standard. So as I mentioned, this is sometimes some of the senior swimmers might go to a premier meet and swim some of their strokes that they don't swim very often, that they don't have an A standard in. All the races are time finals, so that's just they swim once, not heats and finals. And the age groups are 10 and under, 11 and 12, 13 and 14, and 15 and over. And there's best time ribbons. And again, these are held within the zone to um, try to avoid overnight travel. The exception is that there's a premier championship meet that sometimes has an overnight stay required. Some of the other types of meets, I'm not going to get into them in a lot of detail because most of the swimmers who will go to this have some experience, and their parents have some experience already. So the Marianne Limpert, MB Open Cup, and some of the other championships and outer province meets. So how do you qualify for a meet? So a swimmer who has never qualified for an event, as I mentioned earlier, will have or has been disqualified. There's no time or NT for that event. A swimmer must swim an event at a sanctioned meet for the time to be official. A personal best or PBs, their best time if a swimmer has achieved a best time. And a swimmer's entry time for a meet will be their personal best. The only, I guess, exception for that is some of the meets they they require qualifying times within a certain period of time. For example, you can only use a qualifying time from the past year, but that would typically be for more senior level events. So where do you find your swimmers' official times? You can find them at swimrankings.net. Then you click on the athletes tab on the left and you enter your swimmers' info. You'll then get a list of all their best times in every event and all their official results in them. So time standards. In New Brunswick, we have B, A, and AA time standards. Each province has its own set of time standards, as well as there's some national time standards to qualify for national meets. And they're based on the swimmer's age. New Brunswick time standards are posted on our website, that the Team Unify website, under swimmer info. I think it's the top tab, top link right now in the swimmer info tab. As your swimmer matures, their best stroke and distance might change. So this is why coaches get swimmers to swim different events all the time. So just because your swimmer, when they were 12 years old, just because they had AA times doesn't mean when they turn 13 and 14 that they'll still have AA times, or maybe as they grow, they might suddenly start getting AA times. My point here is as your swimmer advances through different age groups, you need to continue checking to see if they've reached the standard for the next age group. And I'll show you how that works in a moment. The idea with swimming multiple events is really the swimmers shouldn't really specialize too much until they have some physical maturation. As I said earlier, their best stroke might change as their body changes and they continue to physically mature. Time standards are great for goal setting, and they should be used for a swimmer. But while improvement is great, it's not a prerequisite to be able to go to swim meets. Sometimes people don't get best times for 6 months, and then all of a sudden they'll get best times in every event. Something just clicks, or they go on a bit of a growth spurt. So for a bit of a swim rankings demo, I've gone to Google and I've typed swim rankings in the search bar, and I have swimrankings.net that's come up. When I get to that site, there's all sorts of information here, but what I'm going to demo is you can go to the athletes and then search, and you can search for your child in here, and they'll come up from a searchable list. I'll search for Summer McIntosh, and her best times come up. There's a couple things I want to note here. You can make sure it's the right swimmer, birth date and so on and so forth. But you can see that 50 freestyle is here twice. One is the 50-meter long course time, and the other is the short course time. So you can see all of the events. These are the events that she has official times in. So these are all the official times, and lots of neat information here. If you click on this actual event, it'll show the progression of her times over time, long course and short course. And then if you click on an event, the time for an event, for example, I'll pick this 1500 free, you can see all of her splits from that event. So these are the splits, for the first 100 meters, she won a 101, and then so on and so forth as you go through the list. Then you can see that person's ranking in the province, so all time and season, and their ranking in Canada. So if you're looking at one of our swimmers, for example, they're registered in New Brunswick, so you'd see their current and all-time ranking in the province of New Brunswick and on their swim team. So there's lots of pretty neat information, but this is where you can look up your swimmer's current best times, and it works pretty well. So qualifying for a swim meet, I just wanted to run through an example. If I had a 12-year-old daughter and I want to see if she has a B time in 100 free or 200 free, I look up her time in swim rankings, as I showed a little earlier, paying attention to the difference between long course and short course, 50 meters and 25 meters, and I compare it to the table. So I'm going to look at this table, and this is the one that's posted on our website for the standards. She's a female, so I look at the female side of this sheet. And then she's 12 years old, so I look at the 12-year-old column. And then it's the 100 free that I'm interested in. So there's the 100 free here. You can see the stroke is here, free and back. The 100 free is there. And then I want to know if she has a B time. So within the B time, I look at that row. Similarly, if I wanted to look at the 200 free, I'd look at the 200. Again, it's within the freestyle grouping. You can see the back down below in this table. It's within the freestyle grouping, 200, and again, there's the B. So it's the intersection of these two boxes. In this case, it's 3 minutes and 14 seconds. So if her time from swim rankings is faster than 3 minutes and 14 seconds, then she has achieved a B time. So how do I sign up for a swim meet? You can keep an eye on the website for upcoming events. There'll typically be emails sent out when a new event is added. The information within the email and the event on the website will say when the entries are due, what events there are, how much the fee is to register, and any other pertinent detail for where the meet's taking place, and any other pertinent details that you need to know. So on our website, kind of halfway down, there's an about section, and there's team events. When you click on that, it'll take you through to where the events are, or you can click the link in the email that is sent you. For us, the sign up is done online by going to the event and then clicking attend or decline. And when you attend, the meet fees will be charged to your account. So when you click that team events button, you'll get a list of team events. And so you can see here there's a fast distance invitational at this time. And there's an attend decline button. So when you click that button, it'll take you to another screen that where you can say yes, blank will attend, or no, blank will not attend. And you'll also get a notes section. In that notes section, you can put in the events that your swimmer would like to swim, and your coach will take that into consideration when they're signing them up for the swim meet. Ultimately, the events they swim are at the discretion of the coach, or whatever the coach thinks is the best for them. But that would be an area where you can put in what you would like to swim. So how are they chosen? As I mentioned, you can say what you'd like to swim, but it is a coach's discretion. For younger swimmers, a coach will try to have them swim all the events over the course of the season. I mentioned earlier that we try to not to have them specialize too much when they're younger. Younger swimmers will swim their favorite events or what is easy, preferably. Nobody likes to swim butterfly when they're young, so we sometimes need to discourage them to swim or encourage them to swim other events. For older swimmers, the coach will often consult with the swimmer and make a selection based on his or her goals for the year. So we're going to a swim meet. What should we eat? Some swimmers find it difficult to consume food first thing in the morning, so eating a high carb dinner the night before is important. So whole wheat pasta with chicken or whole wheat pizza with low fat cheese and veggies are some good options. For breakfast, there's no perfect breakfast. It's just whatever the swimmer really likes. A balanced breakfast would be carbs, proteins, fluids, and a small portion of healthy fat. In terms of timing for your pre-meet meal, aim for a 3-hour window for when you will be racing. It's not always easy because no one wants to get up at 5 so they can eat to race for 8. But half an hour before you race, also see if you can have a healthy snack for quick energy. So if you're going to a swim meet as a parent, one of the things that's different, I guess, for swim meets versus hockey tournaments or baseball. I coach baseball. In baseball, the officials are the ones, or the umpire is the person that is paid, whereas the coaches are volunteers. There's only the one umpire or two umpires being paid. In swimming, it's the opposite. The coaches are professionals and they're compensated. But the officials are volunteers, and to run a swim meet takes more than 30 volunteers. So when you go to your first swim meet, you'll be amazed at the number of people that are on deck that are timing swimmers or being a referee or running electronics for a swim meet. So there's a lot of volunteers required. So even when we go to swim meets, our team is required to supply a certain number of officials per session. So at least one parent of every swimmer should become an official and be prepared to volunteer during a swim meet. So if we all chip in, it's not the same people that have to do the officiating at the same time. I will be sending out, or there will be a separate posting about an entry point to officiating. So there's an introduction to swimming officiating. I guess, but for the purpose of this, the important takeaway is that we do need volunteers, and especially the first level, which is introduction to officiating, is really more about how swimming competitions work and the important points of when you're acting as a timekeeper for swimmers. And really, there's no better seat. You're basically sitting at the end of the lane, and you can see everything that's happening on the pool deck. So as a parent, what are your responsibilities for the swim meet? Especially for the younger kids or even some of the older kids, remind your swimmer to pack your swim bags the night before. If they're old enough to compete, they're old enough to pack their own bag. Just make sure you check that they actually have stuff in there, even if you have to do it on the sly. Get your swimmer to the pool in time. Normally that is 15 minutes before warm-ups start. So that'll give them some time to get on deck. So no parent should be on deck unless they're volunteering as an official or a volunteer. Under no circumstances should swimmer parents be sitting with the team. And that's just done so that we can reinforce a relationship between your coaches, our coaches, and your swimmers. When they finish their race, that's who they should be going to see. So cheer your swimmer on from the viewing area. Check with your coach before you leave the pool with your swimmer. Know whether or not they need to return for finals. A lot of swimmers are good at checking that themselves, but not always. So you don't want to surprise. And as I mentioned, let the coaching staff do the coaching. Our coaches are professionals. They have training to be coaches, and they'll discuss the stroke techniques and DQs or any other items about the race. And finally, you just need to provide some positive reinforcement to the swimmers and let them know how proud you are about the job they did. Swimmer responsibilities, as I mentioned, they should pack their bag the night before. Make a list of things they can't pack until the morning. Maybe there's food or clothes in the washer, and set that on top of your swim bag. Be on deck 15 minutes before warm-ups. Have your racing gear on deck with you. Know what events you're swimming in. Pay attention to what events are happening when you need to report for your race. Swimmers will miss their races. It's an unfortunate thing, but it does happen, so don't be disappointed when your swimmer does miss their race. It's a learning experience, so it will happen at some point during their swimming career, so don't get frustrated by that. When they're not racing, they should stay with their team and cheer on their teammates. And then as soon as they finish their race, they should go talk to their coach, I guess before and after the event, to discuss strategy and results. And it's at that time that the coach will say, hey, look, I noticed when you dove in the water, your hands went apart on the dive, or that's when the coach is really, it's fresh in their mind, things that they just observed. So it's important for the swimmer to go talk to their coach right away. What should the swimmer pack in their bag? A couple of team suits, a couple of caps, a spare pair of goggles, because they do break, a team t-shirt, a couple towels. They get very wet, so it's a very sad day when you have a towel that fell in the pool and you have no towel to dry yourself off with. Deck sandals or flip-flops. Those are for the deck, not the same ones you wore out on the street. And water, some sports drinks. Food, bring nutritious snacks like Ritz Bits and cheese, goldfish, fruit, dried fruit, granola bars. Candy and junk food are not really good options. The sugar goes through your system really fast, so it's not a great source of energy. And try not to make a mess when you're on deck eating the food. Bring a dry change of clothes for after the swim meet, and bring a positive attitude. What should parents pack? Some money. As I mentioned, the meet programs can cost a few dollars. The host team might sell 50-50 tickets or have some other fundraising, and sometimes lockers need to be rented. Not a lot does that happen, but sometimes. A lot of places also have places where you can put a lock on a locker, so you might want to bring a lock. You can bring a highlighter and pen to mark your swimmer's events in the heat sheets and to write down any times. Try to find out from other parents what the facilities are like at the pool that you're going to for viewing. Some places just have a sitting area, some like what we have at Canada Games Aquatic Center. So it's nice to bring a folding chair with you so you can sit up in the pedway. Other pools have bleachers for you to sit on, like the Moncton pool. If your child has any medication, bring that, and entertainment items to fill time between swimmers' races. Bring water and snacks. Swim sessions can be up to 4 hours, so you can get pretty dehydrated even if you're just sitting there. Bring a change of shoes if you're officiating. We'll be on deck. And bring a relaxed, calm, positive attitude. Sometimes the meet takes longer than we think, and we kind of have to roll with the punches. So cheer and support your swimmer, but let the coaches do the coaching. What should swimmers eat after the meet? Really get some carbs and protein within 30 minutes of racing, and eat a protein-focused dinner. But really, after a meet, it's really just fuel to recharge. Thank you for your time, and hopefully you look forward to a great swimming season.